Okay, so let's get into some conflict resolution 101. What is up, you guys? It is Dr. Jasmine from themomspsychologist.com. In today's video, I am going to be doing a part two to my sharing video. So if you haven't watched part one, I will go ahead and link it so you can watch that one first. In that video, I talked a lot about sharing and really how to navigate the toy battles that happen between our children or between other children, how to communicate with other parents, and other information. So if you haven't watched that video already, go ahead and do so. I'm going to be following up in today's video by answering some more specific questions that I received from moms on Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram already, then be sure to do so at the Mom Psychologist. And my stories is where I answer a lot of questions and get a lot of feedback. So be sure to follow along on my stories as well. Anyways, let's dive into the specific questions that I received. So the first one that I received, I have my notebook. The first one that I received was from a mom who has a 3-year-old and she also has a 1-year-old. And she said that she often finds that the 3-year-old will bring toys up to the counters or the tables because their play is often interrupted by the 1-year-old who wants to join in but doesn't really know how to, and just ends up kind of messing up the play, interrupting the 3-year-old's play. And I think this is so common. I had this situation happen many times between my two kiddos. They're 15 months apart, but for a while, Jayla, the youngest one, would come in and interrupt her play, interrupt Julia's play. And so I actually would say that it's okay for them to go to other places like counters and tables so that they can play more in depth. We want to provide our children with plenty of opportunities to really dive into their play because we understand that play is their form of work. It's their highest form of learning. And so when it's constantly being interrupted, then essentially their learning is being interrupted. So I would say give permission to your 3-year-old to kind of play on their own, get their own space, and so their play is not interrupted. The other thing I will say though is that you can also help your 3-year-old learn some assertiveness and some communication with the 1-year-old. It may not always work at this phase for the 1-year-old, but you can definitely start to begin to give them words to use. So for example, if they're working on a tower and the 1-year-old is about to come and knock it over and the 3-year-old is saying, no, then you can say something like, I hear you saying no. What do you want your little brother to stop? Or, what do you want to tell him? What do you want him to stop doing? Oh, you don't want him to knock over your tower. Then, you can say something like, please don't knock over my tower. So it's really important to kind of give our children language to communicate with others what they need and what their wishes are. And this will, over time, help the younger brother learn how to intervene, and it helps the 3-year-old learn how to set boundaries and express their needs and their wants. Of course, this won't always work, but it's important to, especially during this stage, teach them the language to speak up for themselves. So children really can begin the process of conflict resolution around 2 and 3. So they'll need a lot of our help, they'll need a lot of our words, but if we realize that we can help them learn this, it's really one of the best lessons, right? Because they need this skill to thrive in school and other settings. They need to be able to speak up for themselves, hear what others have to say, and then come up with a solution that hopefully works for everybody. So another question that I received was from a mom who has a 15-month-old, and she wanted to know what to do when they become violent with the toys. So I'm assuming it's something like throwing the toy or hitting somebody else with a toy, something of that nature. So around 15 months, much of the discipline and limit setting is going to be through our guidance, right? Because their comprehension and language is not as developed as older kiddos, and they're not really able on a cognitive level to begin to resolve conflict. So you're gonna wanna guide them through that. So you can give them a very specific instruction, like please keep the toy in your hand, or please, use it this way, show them how to use the toy. Give them another toy that's more appropriate. So say they're throwing a toy, you can give them a soft ball to throw, or you can invite them to go outside and throw, or bang stuff around. So you want to try as much as possible to give them an avenue to express themselves or to do that behavior just in a safer way. And then if it's a situation where you're not able to provide a different or an alternative solution and you need them to stop, then I think your best route or your best solution is to say something like, okay, I'm gonna help you. And then you can either guide their behavior or remove the toy, and let them just explain to them that it's not appropriate at this time. Let me try to see if I can think of an example. So say they are hitting somebody with a toy, then of course you're gonna want to intervene, and you can say something like, I'm gonna help you. I can't let you hurt. Toys are not for hurting. And then you'll just want to get in between, put your hands out, put your body in between, and help redirect their behavior. So another question that I received was about how to be comfortable with commenting versus intervening. I love this question because it already shows that you're mindful of the fact that more and more we want to take a step back and let our children work through the conflict, because we know and we understand that conflict is good, conflict is normal. It's gonna happen several times throughout the day. We get plenty of opportunities, and our children get plenty of opportunities to practice navigating conflict. And so I think the basic rule of thumb is that as long as the behavior is not dangerous or aggressive in any way, then it's okay to take a step back, right? Because we know that it's not an emergency, that they don't need our immediate help right now. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't get involved or that we don't observe or we don't help them or guide them through the conflict, but it means that we don't need to be so quick to intervene and interject what's happening in the moment. So all you can simply do, as long as it's not dangerous or aggressive, is simply describe what you see. I see you threw sand and brother didn't like that, right? Or I see you threw the wood chips at him and at first he liked it and now he's saying no, 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 right? So it's okay to describe, and then you can take it a step further and say, I hear you saying no, no, no. What would you like them to do? Oh, okay, you want them to stop throwing. Okay, tell them that. Okay, I want you to stop throwing. If the other child continues to have trouble with honoring the limits, then you'll want to say something like, okay, you need to stop throwing, and then give it some time. If they continue to test that boundary, you can say something like, okay, I see you're having a hard time. I'm going to help you, and you can pick them up and remove them from the situation. Or you can give them two choices. Okay, you have two choices. You can keep the bark in your hand, or we're gonna have to move to a different area, and then kind of fill it out and see what happens. At that moment, you can use your judgment call. If they have trouble stopping the behavior, then that's your cue that they're gonna need you to step in and give some more guidance and redirection. So another question that I received was along the lines of, what if they refuse to solve the conflict, or there's no resolution in sight? So that's a great question. I think, again, as much as possible, if we can just describe what we see and then open it up. What do you think we should do about this? Do you have any ideas? Sometimes our kids are going to need some ideas. They're going to need some help in either coming up with a resolution that's going to work for both kiddos, or for helping them communicate with the other child about their needs and their wants. So you're gonna have to fill it out and see how to proceed. I'm thinking of a situation, let's say if both children are fighting for one toy, right? So you're gonna wanna just describe what you see in very neutral, non-judgmental way. And remember, as long as it's not dangerous or aggressive, we don't need to intervene and stop the behavior necessarily, right? As long as no one is getting hurt, then it's okay for them to have this push and pull with the toy. And you can say something like, I see both of you guys want the toy right now. I wonder what we should do about it. And you can give an example, you can give a possible solution like, you know, I've heard some kids have a wait list for toys or or something like that, but allow it to play out. I think if we give it some time, our kiddos will come to some solution, right? Whether that's that one child backs away from the toy and lets the other one have it. And then if that's the case, you'll want to always acknowledge and praise the child who shared, right? Acknowledge that one, and just let the other one know, hey, okay, well, let so-and-so know when you're done, because I know that they really want to turn with that toy. Thank you, you guys, you know, and keep it positive. Keep it as positive and upbeat as possible. Okay, and another question I received was from a mom, another mom who has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And her question was about how can I help my 1-year-old navigate these situations so that I'm not always getting on my 3-year-old, which I love because I love that she's so aware of this and she's aware of not wanting to kind of get on the 3-year-old or have, you know, such high expectations for the 3-year-old, and she wants to kind of keep that balance, right, and not choose sides, which I love, and it's a great place to start. I think at 1 year old, they're a little too young to begin sort of a conflict resolution process because their communication and their comprehension is not as developed. But keep in mind, when they do turn 2, you can begin the process of conflict resolution, which I'll talk about in a second. But for the 1-year-old, it's going to be a lot of redirection and guidance of their behaviors. You can still explain out loud what's happening. So I'm thinking of an example. If the 3-year-old is, let's say, building a tall tower, the 1-year-old is coming up to the tower, the 3-year-old is getting upset. This has happened a lot, by the way, and the 1-year-old is about to. You can put your hand out and say, I can't let you do that. I see such and such or so and so is building this nice tower. I am gonna help you. Let's, you know, kind of thing, like redirect their behavior, get them involved in a different activity as much as possible. And again, allow your 3-year-old to have some space and opportunity to dive deep in their play without having to be worried about the 1-year-old. Now, of course, this is not always possible. This is not always unavoidable. So let's say, for example, the 1-year-old is coming up to the tower. The 3-year-old is like, no, 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 no. The 1-year-old pushes the tower over. Then you will want to just simply describe what you see. I saw you were building the tower, and then brother came up and knocked it down, and now you're feeling so sad and you're so disappointed. Yeah, I could see how you would feel that way, right? So you're going to want to offer the comfort to the 3-year-old and offer your focus to the 3-year-old. And then you can say something like, I wonder what we should do about it. More times than not, they'll just decide to begin building the tower again. But I think it's really important to convey to your 3-year-old that you understand where they're coming from, that you know that this is frustrating. You can give them some solutions like, you know, next time you can tell brother, please don't knock over my tower, to sort of give them some more communication skills. And then again, give them permission to go to a different area and work on their project alone without interruptions. Okay, so let's get into some conflict resolution 101. So children can start this process as early as 2 years old. Just keep in mind, for kiddos 6 and younger, they're gonna need our presence there more times than not, and they're gonna need our help with having the language to assert themselves and to resolve the conflict successfully. So what this looks like is you're going to want to ask questions in the beginning and observe what you see. You can also ask a simple question like, did you like that when brother did X, Y, and Z? Because that really helps normalize and validate their feelings while also giving them permission to assert themselves. You're also going to want to bring both of the kiddos close together. You can offer some physical touch just to let them both know we're in this together. We're going to get through this. I'm not choosing sides, right? And I want us to work through this. So you're going to want to get down on their level, bring them close together. The thing that you're going to want to do to help your children through the conflict is to identify everybody's feelings, describe what you see, and try to create a safe place for them, because if children sense that we're choosing sides, or that we're angry, or that we're annoyed with what's happening, they're gonna clam up, right? And they're not gonna feel comfortable to talk about what's going on. So as much as possible, try to create a safe place with your verbal cues as well as your nonverbal cues that, hey, we're all in this together. I'm objective here, and I just want us to come up with a solution together. And then again, for kiddos younger than 6, you're gonna wanna invite them to tell the other child what they didn't like. For older kids, you can just say something like, well, tell them how you feel, or tell them. But for younger kids, you're gonna want to help them come up with the words like, I didn't like when you pushed me. I didn't like when you knocked my tower down. I didn't like when you threw bark in my face, right? You're gonna wanna let them, or give them those words to say to the other child. And then you're going to want to repeat that back. Okay, so I heard you say he didn't like that. Did you hear that too? And get some feedback from the other child. And you wanna just reinforce that boundary. If the other child has trouble with respecting that boundary, then they will need your help. They might need some extra TLC or some connection from you, because that's probably a sign that they're not doing well emotionally. They're activated, they're disappointed, they're frustrated. And so use that as a sign. If they're having trouble with respecting the other child's boundary, that's your sign to connect with them, validate their feelings, and then try to redirect them to a different activity if that's appropriate. I hope this was helpful in sort of expanding on sharing how to navigate toy battles and how to help your kiddos learn the valuable skill of conflict resolution. If you are struggling with this, or if you're struggling with boundaries or limit setting, I do have my book coming out soon called Let's Talk Discipline, which is a positive parenting guide to raising happy, respectful children without compromising the relationship and compromising your sanity. It is jam-packed, filled with information on how to set limits and how to enforce consequences. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you haven't already, give this video a big thumbs up. That helps me. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and be sure you're following me on Instagram at The Mom Psychologist. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.